Hi guys, this is something of a supplemental video to the last tidbit. In particular, I was talking about the Content ID system, and there were just a couple of points I wanted to touch on that I think I sort of glossed over or skipped. Nothing important. More than anything, I'm just sort of toying around with some new lighting options and things like that. First and foremost, I should note that in that tidbit, number 3, I think, I don't use the right terms. I keep saying things like claim instead of content match, that sort of thing. You know what? I realize I'm not using the right terminology. I don't care. This is a broken system, and I don't care if I'm using the right terminology or not. That's not the point. Likewise, I'm aware that a lot of people are talking about, oh, the gamers are now having to deal with what we've been dealing with for 3 years. Folks, that's simply not true. If you weren't a part of a network, a multi-channel network, then you've been dealing with this sort of thing for the last 3 years just like everybody else. Gamers, movie reviewers, you name it. The truth is, the lawsuit that started all of this apparently was over people making covers of music. I don't like the fact that the system works the way that it does right now. I don't like the fact that someone can have a 30-second video clip in a 30-minute long video. So it's, a piece of music playing on a radio in-game in a video clip that's 1/60th the length of the video. I mean, the fact is that's not even accurate to say 1/60th, because in so much as someone's doing a let's play or a review of a game, you're talking about a section of song that fits into a video where there's gameplay footage, spoken dialogue, you name it. The system's not perfect, and that's really never going to be fixed in those terms. But whenever you consider the idea that all these videos are getting flagged, all of a sudden, I say flagged, again, not using the right terms, but all these videos are getting these content matches all of a sudden, should tell you there's something wrong with the system, something inherently at the core wrong with Content ID. There is no way that people who were affiliated and still are affiliated with these networks should suddenly get 60 content matches. Oh, well, they've been, covered. Those network people, they've been protected. You know what? Drop that. Quit with the class envy on freaking YouTube. They had a contract with somebody. It's okay. It's okay. I realize the networks aren't totally in the clear on this either. They've made bad choices, and they've done things. Fraser, in one of his videos, was talking about the fact that they should have known about this. There's a report on this going back to October. So networks, at the very least, should have been stepping in and warning people this was about to happen, and should have been taking steps really to try and counter it in some way. Should have been contacting, people for content authors or something. They could have done something. Here's the problem, though. You can't just sit and blame these MCNs. They have their problems, certainly. But they're not the one making these fraudulent matches. Content ID is. The system that YouTube is used to protect themselves from lawsuits. Because, as a company, you may remember the last video I mentioned that Google and YouTube, by extension, have a responsibility to their users. From a legal standpoint, they have a bigger responsibility, and it's a responsibility to shareholders. It's a responsibility to the people that run the company and sink their finances into the company, that sort of thing. They have to turn profits. They have to be protected from lawsuits. The problem here is this is not a solution. this is a punishment for the people who are actually generating the income, as Angry Joe pointed out. Honestly, I'm not really telling you anything new here, I'm just putting my own spin on it. The fact of the matter remains, there should not have been a wave of new content matches. These are stupid matches. We're talking about Fallout videos, not with the music in the game, but with the background. So a lot of that's getting cleared up. The problem is, it shouldn't have happened in the first place, and it's still taking all the power and all the authority over your video and putting it in the hands of somebody else. Even, you know, as a non-monetized channel, and as a really small one at that, some of my videos don't have very many views, like 27 and things like that. I still don't want to make something and put a lot of effort into it and then suddenly have somebody else claim creative control of it. Somebody else suddenly claim the ability to monetize it. Really, I don't want Google's ads running on my videos unless I choose to do it. One of the biggest problems with Content ID is it's perfectly designed to be abused. The fact is, it's possible for someone to come in impersonating a company, lay claim to who knows what samples, it's happened before, and then get content matches on other people's hard work. I understand that the system is set up to protect Google and YouTube. What I don't like is that they're offering themselves protection at the cost of users. The fact is, this sort of thing has been used against reviewers who knows how many times now, just to silence negative criticisms. This stuff has happened. It's fraught with weaknesses to be exploited. The people who actually do what they're supposed to, make their videos legitimately, make them the right way, are the most prone to being abused. And the only people who have any chance of really fighting it are larger channels. As has been stated in countless comments since this started, somebody with the larger channels and with network support needs to press a lawsuit against YouTube to fix this. They need a precedent established. There's 2 points I want to make on that. The first is, there's a lot of people saying they need to just drop it, they don't have a leg to stand on, a Let's Play is not protected under fair use, etc., etc. We have this unnatural desire to be a know-it-all when we get on YouTube, and there's people talking about stuff that have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. You've got people who are just laymen walking around spouting gibberish about what they think they know about the law. And then you've got the occasional lawyer who comes in and takes what they know of the law in their state and tries to apply it universally. It doesn't work that way. You've got state laws, you've got federal laws, you've got international laws, you've got treaties. You've got a lot of stuff to consider. How do I know? Because I have a degree in business. I took a business law class. I took it a second time because I enjoyed it so much. I needed an elective. The truth is, what we have now is a very antiquated system. We have laws in place that were meant to address bootlegging of movies to, like, videotape, you know, or someone taking a book and then publishing it under a different title, and that sort of thing. Taking music, such as a song, and writing a cover for it, and then trying to pass it off as a completely original work. That sort of thing. That's not what's happening here, and the fact is the vast majority of people in these situations are doing things legitimate. They actually are making the transformative works that are protected by fair use. And there's all these people, that's not fair use, so Let's Play is not. It is. Depending. And this is the problem. There's this massive gray area that when it comes to intellectual property, there's a lot of wiggle room. It's very, very globule-like. You have the set core items laid out in law. And then you have all this new technology that's come about in the last 100 years that only a fraction of that's actually covered under the law. After that, we're not sure, because there's no legal definition of what is considered the copyrighted material in a game. You have the actual game, but part of the game is the experience of playing it. When people make a Let's Play, they're actually making a video of themselves playing the game. It's their experience with their commentary. That's not the same thing as posting a movie. That's not the same thing as posting a CD album or a specific track. That's not even the same as making a cover song. It's a very unique experience. And when they take the time to put in all kinds of editing, graphics, that sort of thing, they really are transforming the work. What bothers me is that can be considered fair use, whereas a walkthrough, you're kind of stretching that definition a lot. That's why I took down the Penumbra videos, because they were a walkthrough, and I was never happy that Radu had posted that in that way, because I did not like the fact that there wasn't any commentary. I didn't like the fact that there was very little done save for posting the gameplay. There's a distinction to be made there. Some people refuse to see the distinction. That's their problem. But there's no court precedent saying that these are the same thing. There's no court precedent saying that they're not. That's kind of the problem. Since there are no current concrete binding laws on the subject, there's this loose interpretation going on, and it's up to people to actually take this to court and get precedents set. Well, here's the problem. The vast majority of people making Let's Plays cannot afford to go to court. One of the biggest weapons in your arsenal is simply to challenge these claims. You go through the process, you challenge the content match. They turn around and they reject that. You then file whatever. You end up ultimately, if you still cannot get them to go along with it and release your content, then you can file a counterclaim. The trick to that is it's a legal action. You're actually suggesting, as was pointed out in this one video, come and sue me. All of that said, I think the point that I really wanted to make is just how broken the system is. The notion that 1/60th of a video would give someone control of it. I don't deny that there are people posting full movies online. I don't deny that there are people posting full songs online. Even, circumstances where it may not be the only thing that's in there, but it's enough that it actually shouldn't be allowed to stay on. The problem here is that these Content ID matches are hitting in waves, massive numbers of matches, and they're all going to there's music groups, publishers, and things like that that had nothing to do with the game you're playing. It's just somebody else along the line that has the rights to something. In some instances, completely false, non-existent companies and things like that, scam artists and frauds. The fact that that's being allowed to happen tells me that the system is broken and needs to be repaired. That's the problem I have with this. There is no excuse for that. That's shirking responsibility. It's up to Google and YouTube to take the initiative. Something we talked about in our business ethics class was the appearance of impropriety. That you as a corporation or a representative of a corporation can do everything perfectly legally, but because it looks like you're doing something illegal or immoral, you can still be viewed by the public as immoral. And it's up to Google to realize that. Just because you're protecting yourself doesn't mean you get to flog innocent people. Yes, these content matches are being cleared up really quickly. But that's mostly because there are actual content holders out there that have made it very clear. These game companies, and I applaud them, recognize just how valuable these Let's Plays really are to their bottom line. But we're not just talking about Let's Plays anymore, are we? Again, this has been happening to people for 3 years now. People reviewing movies, people making music. They said they were going to do this in January. What can we expect in January? Fraser, in one of his videos, stated that it appears that this is ramping up over the last several months. That they're getting more claims. And they're independent. They're not assigned to a multi-channel network. Are we going to hit a point where there are that many, content matches? Who's to say they're not going to flip a switch in January? That as we go along, to protect themselves from other lawsuits, we're not going to see an even wider, more broken system. In a court of law, in terms of what is considered a constitutional law, the court looks at and tries to decide, and this includes the Supreme Court, mind you, just how open the interpretation is of that law. If you're going to pass a law that's going to bind someone's freedom of speech, you have to be able to narrow that down. There has to be a specific set of circumstances that makes the law work for a legitimate constitutional reason. Anything left too open to interpretation isn't constitutional. The reason for that is that it can be abused. What we're talking about in the case of YouTube isn't a constitutional matter. They're not a governmental body. So you start talking about freedom of speech, you're getting kind of loose. You can go somewhere else and post your material. What we're talking about is more the ethical side of things and just how moral or immoral you can be as a host for this content. How much can you punish people in order to protect your own bottom line based on a very wide, very loose definition? But the bigger the company gets, the more it has to protect itself from lawsuits. The problem is, the bigger the company gets, the more of a responsibility it has to its many, many and growing number of users to ensure it's being as fair to them as possible. And right now, the Content ID system is not being fair at all. It's broken horribly. I've been waiting. I've recorded basically 2 videos now and I just wanted to do this. Blue light special. Blue light special.